Hello, good afternoon, everybody. This webinar is called Managing Your Child's Sleep, and it's run by Contact, and I'm Shona Chambers, and I'm a parent advisor for Contact. Okay, so let's crack on. Okay, so welcome. This is the Contact webinar. If there's any technical hitches, please do bear with us, okay? I shouldn't really say this, but this is the first time I've actually done one of these. Thank you for joining. So if you're joining by PC, laptop, tablet, or smartphone, you should now be able to see things. If not, put it in the chat, and the admin lady called Helen, who will very gladly help you. Okay, so let's go. So there are many attendees, so you'll all be muted throughout. So if you've got any questions, do put them in the chat. If there's any specifically for me, I will see them. Otherwise, Helen will hopefully be able to deal with anything technical. Okay, so let's go. So the aims of today's session, we're going to try and hopefully understand the importance of sleep, why sleep problems might occur, and top tips to help. Okay. So why is sleep important? Well, we all need sleep. Every man, woman, child, animal, beast, fish, bird, we all need sleep. So sleep is really, really important because our growth hormones are released. So particularly I think when we're children, when we're babies and children, we're growing all the time. And that's when a lot of those growth hormones are released. So you might know yourself if you're a mum or a dad, your child goes to bed and you think, oh God, they've sprouted overnight because the growth hormones have been released. Sleep also strengthens our immune system. So if you think about when maybe you're feeling poorly or you're feeling a bit run down, if you have a good night's sleep, how that good night's sleep really, really helps. Okay. The brain makes sense of the day's events when we're sleeping. So even as adults, when you're sleeping, your brain's still ticking over, it's still going. But I think more importantly, when you're a child, your brain is consolidating all of those things that you've learned throughout the day. Okay. It also increases memory and concentration. So you kind of probably know yourself because you're here to learn about sleep. And I'm guessing maybe sleep is a bit of an issue in your household. When you are tired, you tend to forget things more easily and your concentration goes a bit more easily. I know when I'm tired, I'll go into the kitchen for a cup of tea or something, and I'll come out and I've forgotten what I've went in there for. Or I'll go into the local shop for a pint of milk and I'll buy something else and come out without the milk. But that's kind of how lack of sleep can affect you. The body rests when you're asleep, so it's the physical body as well as your brain. Okay, so your brain's still going, but your physical body's resting. So if you've got any injuries or if you've got something, maybe it's a bad back or aches and pains and things, if you can get a good, decent night of rest and a good night's sleep, then you feel so much better afterwards and the body starts to repair itself. I think when you're in hospital and things, a lot of time, if you're in hospital, you tend to sleep a lot. And that's because maybe you've had something going on, a bit of a traumatic time to your body. And when you're sleeping and you're repairing, really, okay? Sleep also restores emotional well-being. I think we all know if you don't get enough sleep, you can get very ratty. And then it can become a bit of a vicious circle if you don't go to sleep the next night, and then the next night, and the next night. Some things that you could quite easily laugh off as something, oh, that doesn't matter, could become a bit of a big deal, and it would affect your emotional well-being if this is going to be a constant or an ongoing problem. Okay, so that is why sleep's important. The thing to remember is that you're not alone in this. Okay, so research estimates that around 86% of children with additional needs might have problems with sleep. 86% is a high number. I know we'll all agree that that is a high number. Disabled children are more likely, not automatically going to have, but more likely to have sleep disorders. Okay, so the thing is, if you're sitting there in your city or wherever you're sitting watching this, you might think you're quite isolated. You might think you're quite alone with a lack of sleep or a big sleep issue going on. There are 86% of us, the rest of the world, really having this exactly the same problem. And I should say that during COVID, that figure is probably even higher. Okay, because COVID has brought to the fore quite a few different sleep issues. For those children that may have slept well beforehand, might not now be sleeping very well. And for those adults, mums and dads, that may have slept well, maybe they're not sleeping so well at the moment either because of all the different stresses of the COVID situation. But we are definitely not alone. Okay. So what is the impact of lack of sleep? So if you think of the impact on different people within your household, so if you think of the impact on the child, so I mentioned briefly before there about lack of concentration. So if your child's not sleeping very well, and then the unusual days, I suppose, and come September, they're going back to school, are they being able to concentrate on their lessons and their learning as much as they would be able to if they had had a good night's sleep the night before? So concentration is a massive, massive factor in children that do not sleep very well. They have a lot of lack of concentration. Okay, and we all want. I'm a mum too. My son is 23 years old, so he's a little bit older. But if he goes to college and he's not had a very good sleep, I know that he's not going to be able to concentrate on the things that he's learning that day. Okay, and for a child as well, listening could be an issue because again, it sort of links in with the concentration. So if you might not listen, whereas you might tune in very, very quickly. If you're alert and awake, you might tune in very quickly to something that somebody's saying to you or something that's going on. But when you're tired, your mind tends to drift and you might not listen as well. I sometimes say that it's one of those things that's maybe something that my husband does. It's like a selective hearing thing, but I'm not always sure that that's the case. Learning as well can be a problem as well, especially for our children, because of the concentration and the listening thing. Because if they're tired, they're not maybe concentrating, they're maybe not listening, so therefore they're not learning to the best of their ability. Okay. So for parents, all of those things apply as well to parents. But parents may also be exhausted, okay, and that's the polite way of saying it, exhausted, very stressed, and it becomes that vicious circle of I'm tired, I need my child to go to sleep, I can't go to sleep, and then the next night comes and they don't go to sleep, so you get more and more tired. And for parents, it's harder to switch off because you're always looking after your child. You've got those caring responsibilities, so it's not easy just to go and have a half an hour's little nap on the sofa if your children are running around, because you need to be awake to keep an eye on them, don't you, to keep them safe. So that becomes an extra pressure on yourself because you're so exhausted, and you have to fight the urge to go to sleep, and you can't, so it becomes more stressful as the day goes on. And the more the not sleeping thing is happening, the more stressed and more exhausted you can become. I'm saying this from personal experience too, because I've had my fair share of this, believe me. Okay. For the rest of the family, so it could be for partners, obviously parents as well, or brothers and sisters, there's also going to be an impact on lack of sleep. So their learning can be affected, their mental health can be affected, their well-being can be affected, the same as the child themselves, the parent, brothers and sisters are in it as well. You don't have to be sharing a bedroom with somebody that doesn't sleep to be affected by it. You might still have it all going on in the background, but it's still going on and it's still interrupting your sleep. If you've got more than one child and brothers and sisters can sometimes become quite resentful of the brother or the sister that is not sleeping, okay? And we all want our kids and our families to be happy families and all of that. I'm not going to say it's going to be like that all the time, because we're not the Brady Bunch, are we? But it's kind of, you don't want to have that resentment between your kids, do you? So really, it's the lack of sleep thing is affecting everybody. Don't underestimate how it can affect siblings as well. So there's increased stress and irritability for everybody. And I think I'm sort of preaching to the converted here, because we all know that, don't we? Okay. So we'll kind of look at common issues about going to sleep, because there can be lots and lots of different things that are going on. Some things are more easily sorted than others, to be honest. Okay. So things like settling to sleep at bedtime, which I do get quite a lot of those. sort of queries. I am a parent advisor, but I am also trained in sleep with Sleep Scotland, and I get a lot of queries around settling to sleep at bedtime and the possible disruptive behaviour, and that could be the disruptive behaviour of the child that is not wanting to go to bed for whatever reason, but it can also be disruptive for the rest of the household. So you think that child might be disruptive in themselves, but they're also disrupting everybody else around them, aren't they? So the settling to sleep could be a bit of an issue. That is a very, very common issue. Episodes of night waking, so waking up during the night, and the little darlings will always wake up when you're really tired. So they'll wake up maybe 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, and they might go back to sleep for a little bit if you're lucky, or they might not. I know a lot of children that'll wake up at 3 and they're awake for the rest of the day. So a lot of episodes of night waking and difficulties to resettle themselves. These things, they're very, very common, but they are fixable, if there is such a word. Okay. So there's also other common issues might be sleepwalking. I don't know if you know anybody that sleepwalks, but sleepwalking, to all intents and purposes, can look like that person, that child, that young person, or even that adult, is absolutely wide awake and they're wandering around. They could be talking to you. They could be putting things in the fridge. They could be going outside for a walk. They could be doing all sorts of things, but they really are sleepwalking, and you're just kind of looking at it and thinking, well, oh, what's going on? For your child, though, that is maybe a little bit more dangerous, especially if you've followed your child or your young person when they are sleepwalking, because we will follow them, won't we, to make sure that they're safe. I think the thing to do is to try and get them back to bed, but try not to wake them up. So as we go along, I will give you little tips and hints about things to do as well. But try not to wake them up as they're sleepwalking, because that could be really frightening. The same thing with night terrors. If anybody's ever witnessed a night terror kind of looks as if your child is awake. And again, it's a bit like the sleepwalking thing. They might not actually get out of bed though, or they might. There's another thing, they might. They might sit bolt upright in the bed. Their eyes might be wide, but they are, it looks like they're looking at you, but if you really look at them, maybe they're not. They could be screaming. And your first reaction is like, oh my God, there's an axe murderer in my house. I better go and find out. So you'll run into the bedroom and you'll switch the light on and you'll try to wake them up and you'll shake them and all of that. To be honest, a night terror, your child will not remember a night terror, okay? They are fast asleep. It might not look like it, but they are still fast asleep. So the worst thing you can do really is wake them up at that point, because again, their little heart will be really pumping and you could really affect the heart, or you could really give them a major fright if you try and wake them up. So I would say for any sleepwalkers or night terrors, it looks more scary to us than it does for the person that it's happening to, okay? Sleepwalkers and children and young people that have night terrors do not remember anything about it, okay? So just try and remember that. They don't know what's going on. It's up to me to be calm. The thing is to be calm, to try and take the child back to bed, to settle them back in. You could just say, shh, you're okay. So unconsciously, they do know that you're there, okay? Put them back into bed. Stay with them if you think that makes you feel better. They will just be fast asleep within minutes, okay? But they will not remember anything about it. So especially for children, okay, the thing is to do not go over it the following morning and say what happened there, what was going on, because for an anxious child, that is going to make them even more anxious about going to bed and about going to sleep at night. So for anything around sleepwalking or night terrors, start writing them down. I'll probably talk quite a few bits today about keeping a sleep diary. Keep a sleep diary, okay? Because you need to see if there's any particular patterns and things going on. I should say at this point as well that we are doing a workshop on sleep in a couple of weeks' time. I'll give you I think it's on the 13th of August. So you can always book up for that, and we will go into more information about these things, because obviously I've only got an hour slot to capture quite a few things today, okay? So we'll go into that in more detail within the workshops, okay? Another common issue might be medical or disability related reasons. So that could be things like seizures, oxygen, peg feeding, suctioning, those sort of things. So those are really, really common issues that might affect your child's sleep. But the way to think about it is how can I do this so it's the least invasive process possible, and to do it quietly. So it's kind of like being a bit of a ninja, going in and doing your thing, do whatever you need to do, go in, get the job done, come out again without too much disruption. Okay, so those are sort of common issues. So we're looking at common causes. So what causes these common issues sometimes? So things like getting to sleep. Again, within the workshop, I would throw this open and we'd all get a chance to chat. But if you've got any questions, obviously put them on the chat room there, and we'll get to them. Okay. So things like getting to sleep. So you think of things like diet and food. So you think, well, what is the relationship between food? It doesn't matter what I eat to go to sleep. Well, actually, it does. Okay. I'm not saying that you have to eat all of these things that are going to help you sleep all of the time, but there are certain foods that can help with getting to sleep. We do a lot more of that, like I say, on the workshop, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. But things like if your child's eating a lot of sugary things, a lot of sugary pop, whether it's like Coke or those sort of things, yeah, there's a time and a place for those sort of things, but not for supper and not after tea time. Kind of no, not that's a bit of a no-no. So some additives, you'll know yourself. Some children, they'll have a Haribo and they're climbing up the ceiling. Okay, so you know yourself what affects your child and what it doesn't. But there is quite a big relationship between diet and going to sleep. Okay, your child may be too hot or too cold. So in the summer, I know it's not really much like summer today, but it's supposed to be going to be nice tomorrow. So when it's too hot, it is difficult to sleep, but that's for everybody, isn't it? Or if it's too cold, it's too difficult. It can be difficult to sleep. But it's kind of thinking of the overall temperature of your child's bedroom. So if you think in the middle of winter, if you've got the central heating on and it might be set to be 20, 21 degrees, okay? That's okay for during the day, okay, and on a winter's day, that's okay. But you don't really want that on during the night as well, because then it would become too hot, because during the night time, remember, you've also got covers and things on. And if your child's a bit sensory, they might wrap themselves up really tightly in covers. So they could be really sweating a lot, quite a lot, and really overheating, okay? So the best temperature for a bedroom is probably about 18, 19 degrees, okay? And if you're anything like me, winter, summer, whatever time of day day it is, or time of year it is, I always have a window open because I'm a country girl born and bred. Okay. So it's trying not to have the place too hot or too cold. So if you think about 18 to 19 degrees, that's probably a good temperature to have your bedroom. Okay. So it could be getting to sleep again, could be because of hunger. So hunger might be, have they gone to bed and the last meal they had was at 5 o'clock and it's now 11 o'clock at night, and maybe they're a bit peckish. So there could be the bit of the hunger thing going on. Or it could be some children are affected, their appetite's affected by medication. So if you've got a child that maybe has ADHD, for instance, ADHD medication does suppress appetite, okay? So a lot of children that have ADHD medication, once that medication wears off, which is usually around nighttime, they might get the munchies in the middle of the night. So that can cause a problem. They might genuinely be hungry, okay? Thirsty as well. So it's making sure that a child's got enough liquid in them, so to keep them going overnight. Or could you maybe put a glass of water next to the bed, something like that, okay? Wet and dirty nappies. Well, yeah, those are common causes, but you can't wee and poo to order, really, can we? So if a child's wet or if they're dirty, that is going to cause them to be a bit uncomfortable, obviously, and that is going to stop getting them to sleep. So that's probably on your checklist anyways, those things to check, okay? So it could also be attention seeking. This is more like behavioral type stuff, isn't it, really? So your child may be up and down the stairs. They might say, Mom, I need a drink. Mom, I need to see what you're doing. Mom, I need to tell you this thing that happened 3 weeks ago, last Tuesday or something. And they're just looking for a reason not to have to go to bed. So they could just be attention seeking. So it's kind of thinking, well, yeah, there's a time and a place for the attention, but maybe now is not the time or the place. We'll talk about that in a little while, but it's kind of getting your routine set so they've got lots of attention before they go to bed, so they don't feel the need to come looking for that attention. when it's bedtime or in the middle of the night, okay? So it's putting things in place. So you might think bedtime is bedtime, routine's routine, but it's also about putting things in place throughout the day beforehand to get the best possible sleep, okay? So then it might be things like too much bright light. So you might look at the bedroom and think, as it's really too bright in here. So what would you do? You'd put on a blackout blind. You might put a blackout blind with suctions on it, so it's stuck to the window, so there's no gaps. You might also put a blackout curtain on the top. But remember, if you've got a blind and a curtain, the temperature in the bedroom is going to go up a little bit. So then you might have to turn the temperature down in another way, or have a fan in the room, but make sure that obviously that's a safe thing to do. Okay, so too much bright light. A lot of children struggle when they can't tell the difference between day and night, which is coming up in the next little section there. So it's finding ways to manage that, I suppose. You might have a child that's quite anxious at bedtime. So it could be, I think, especially at the moment with all this lockdown stuff, the anxieties for a lot of kids is a bit up there. So again, it's finding ways and times during the day beforehand to get rid of that anxiety, because you don't want the child to take the anxiety stuff to bed with them. So you can do like a worry book or a journal or a worry doll or a worry crocodile or whatever it is, use some sort of system that you would use so your child gets rid of the anxiety before it comes to bedtime, so that doesn't become another reason why they can't get to sleep, okay? It could be the child or the young person is overstimulated. So if you've got a child that's quite sensory and they might have been bouncing around all day long, they might have been climbing and thrill seeking and jumping off things and climbing trees, or bouncing on a trampoline for hours on end, there's got to be a time when that child's stimulation level comes down again, isn't there? So some children might just be bouncy, bouncy, bouncy all day, and they're just too heightened. Sometimes bath time on a night time can overstimulate a child. If you will kind of know next time you put your child in the bath, and if it's on a night time and they come out and they're raring to go again, maybe it's night time's not the best time for bath time. Maybe think about doing the bath in the morning. Works for me. Like I say, my son's 23 and we've done it that way for a long time, and that really, really works. So common causes for waking up could be a change in the environment. What we're looking for is for the child to go to bed, to be able to settle themselves, to go to sleep themselves, okay? So when they wake up later on, if they do wake up during the night, they already know that they can resettle themselves. If you're sitting beside them, holding the hand, stroking the hair, chatting to them, telling them a story, and they fall asleep that way, then as soon as they wake up during the night, the environment has changed, hasn't it? So they will automatically come looking for you, because they'll associate you doing that thing, whatever it is, for them to go to sleep, okay? The environment as well could be things like the colors on the wall. If you've got really loud, bright pink and gold and sparkles all over the bedroom, or My Little Pony or Thomas or dinosaurs or something, it might just be too much for your child. It might be too overwhelming. So when and if they do wake up during the night, they might see a dinosaur staring at them or something like that. So that can be quite difficult as well. So the environment itself is really, really important. I would say pastel colors. Again, if you come to the workshop, we'll go into more about that. They could wake up because they're too hot or too cold. Again, when it's hot evenings, I suppose in the summer, it's finding a way around that, isn't it? Like put maybe less covers on, get a lower tog duvet if you can find one of those for a summer one. If they're too cold, well, you can always put an extra blanket on, or they can put like extra thick jammies on or something like that. So there's always a way of finding things. They could wake up because they're hungry or they're thirsty, but like I said before, if you put a drink next to their bed, something that they can safely get at, then great, then they can manage themselves. With a bit of practice, they might be able to do that. If they wake up and they're hungry because they've got the munchies, because the medication's worn off, you could have a little sandwich or a little snack next to the bed. But obviously, you've got to make sure that that's something safe, because they might wake up half asleep and you don't want them eating something that they're likely to choke on and half asleep. They might wake up because they're wet or dirty. Again, that's something you really kind of have to go in and deal with. So again, it's learning to go in there, to go in, get the job done, come out again. You can get sheets and things now that are very easily whipped off the bed and put new covers on. So it's kind of do it with least disruption possible, okay? They could be uncomfortable. So have you checked your child's bed lately? So top tip for today is when this is finished, go and lie on your child's bed and see if it's comfortable or not. Because we'll automatically assume that it's comfortable, but do we know if it's comfortable? So it might be lumpy. They might have had it for a long time. If your child's 14 and they've had the same bed since they were 5, maybe it's time to change the mattress. So you think about changing the mattress every time there's a real growth spurt. So if you think it's been a while, maybe it's time to change the mattress. Okay. Maybe they can't distinguish between day and night. So your child might wake up and it might be very dark outside, and they might like, not sure, but they might wake up and it's quite light outside. And in the summer, it does get light pretty quickly, doesn't it? So it's kind of finding another way for them to distinguish between day and night. So you can get things like glow clocks that will change color. I think it's yellow when it's time to get up and it's blue when it's time to stay in bed. So stuff like that, or timers kind of things. Something that your child will relate to, that it will give them more of a visual clue, okay? Some children might wake up because they have nightmares. Nightmares are totally different from night terrors. Nightmares, you may remember them when you wake up. Okay, we've all had nightmares, and sometimes when you first wake up, you remember maybe a couple of little things about them. Again, not really so good to keep talking to your child about nightmares because it might raise their anxieties. Write it down though. Keep a diary. Nightmares could be a sign that there's something else going on in your child's life, and maybe they can't tell you. Maybe they just don't have the words to tell you. So that gives us something to look for. Is it something at school? Is it something else that's happening? So nightmares can cause a bit of an issue. Okay. So has anybody got any questions so far? I'm just going to have a quick look. No, there's no questions for me, so I'll just crack on. So we think about natural hormones within the body that do play a big part in sleep, okay? So there's a hormone, which is a natural hormone called cortisol, okay? Cortisol is what's known as really the stress hormone, okay? We all have this cortisol stuff running around in our bodies, and if you have a lot of cortisol, it means that maybe you're a bit too stressed, okay? Cortisol is part of the hormone as well that activates this fight or flight thing that you've probably all heard of with your kids. So they either fight you or they run, whichever way they go. Okay, but cortisol is really, really pumping in the fight or flight mode. Okay, so cortisol plays a critical role in sleep-wake cycle. So it stimulates wakefulness. So when you wake up in the morning and the sun's up and everything, the cortisol is kicking in. Okay, it's kind of telling your body, time to wake up, time to get with it, time to get alert. Okay. So the cortisol will play around in your body all day long. So it impacts on all sorts of other things in your body. Okay, so it'll impact on your listening and your learning and all of that as well. It impacts on your levels, your hormone levels within your body. Okay. It kind of impacts on your health, I suppose, in a bit as well. It regulates your blood sugar, so cortisol is really quite important. Balances blood sugar, so if you've got diabetes or something, cortisol might be a bit up, but down. Okay. It influences inflammation. So if you've got like an inflammation of, say, your sty in your eye or something like that, cortisol levels will kind of, it could be an imbalance of your cortisol levels as well. It regulates energy levels, okay, which in turn regulates your heartbeat, doesn't it? Because if your heart's really pumping and you're really stressed or you're really kind of up there, a bit hyper, your heart's beating that bit faster, isn't it? So for some children, they're always on the go. So some children that maybe is like, we've got a lot of children that you think they never sit down. They're always jumping from one thing to the other thing to the other thing. Their cortisol levels just keep pumping and pumping and pumping. And they need to have time for that cortisol level to kind of come back down again. Okay, so when the cortisol level starts coming back down again, it's gradually dropping. So if your child's very, very bouncy and all over the place and all of that, they're not really getting the chance for that cortisol level to come back down, are they? So really, we have to find ways within the routine to get them to sit and be still, or as still as they can be, okay, to bring their levels back down again. So the cortisol level will gradually drop, okay, and that sort of allows the body's own internal sleep drive and other hormones, including melatonin, which we'll probably know about, which I'll talk about in a second. So this includes the melatonin to rise and to bring about sleep, because melatonin is another natural hormone that occurs in your body. Okay, melatonin affects and regulates your sleep patterns. everybody has got melatonin within their bodies, okay? It's a natural hormone, and it comes from what's called the pineal gland, okay? So when the sun goes down and it starts to get a bit dusky outside, your melatonin's starting to kick in. Your pineal gland is letting off the melatonin, okay? So it becomes more active, okay? Some children, for some reason, and it seems to be maybe there's a lot of children with autism or autism spectrum kind of things going on with them, do not have an awful lot of melatonin within their body. That would be something that would be checked, usually through blood tests and things, but it would be checked through with a pediatrician, okay? So if a child's melatonin levels naturally they're missing some of that melatonin, those are the children that may also be struggling to go to sleep, because sometimes it does become a more chemical sort of issue, okay? So if your child has been given melatonin, okay, you will only be given melatonin by a pediatrician, okay, or a consultant anyways, because it is a drug. You've got to treat it with respect. It can be dangerous, so it's got to be by a medical person that's prescribed it. I would say never ever get melatonin from somebody else, okay? Because you don't know how it's going to affect your child. Never try and buy anything off the internet, because you've no idea what's in there. Make sure if you have melatonin, make sure it is prescribed, because the GP, the pediatrician, will make sure that your child will get the right level, the right amount of melatonin for that child's body height and weight, and the metabolism, like how fast they're going and all of that sort of stuff. And they will always start with a small dose of melatonin, okay? That's to see if it's going to work or not, because some children, not all children, respond well to melatonin. Some children, it has the completely opposite effect. I know one little boy who had melatonin and he was manic. Basically, he was manic because it just something with him in his chemical body, it just totally clashed with it, okay? So this is why you have to be really, really careful. Melatonin as well, it is a drug and it is expensive. So a lot of practitioners will only give melatonin as a last resort, and only if you've said that you've been on sleep workshops, if you've tried other sleep things beforehand, okay? Because it is expensive, and obviously the NHS don't have lots and lots of money, so they're looking at other ways, okay? So I would say if you need it, you need it, but try everything else first. I do know some families where melatonin will help the child to go to sleep, but it doesn't always keep the child asleep. So that's another thing. So I think if you can do a bit of both, if your child has to have that melatonin because their own levels are quite low, then that's absolutely fine, because every child's an individual. But use a sleep plan alongside. Have a good routine, a good sleep hygiene routine, which most of this is about, as well as, okay? So once we've talked about melatonin and things, we come to blue light. We've probably all heard of the blue light stuff and why you shouldn't really be taking your iPad to bed with you and all of that. I know in real life, a lot of children love to have the iPads away to bed with them, or they will kill you for their iPad, okay? So if you're thinking about that's your child, that is not the best way for your child to go to sleep, because the blue light actually suppresses the natural melatonin in your body. You don't want anything else to suppress that natural melatonin, do you? So the blue light, especially if it's getting dark and you've got this blue light, you can see by the picture there of the lady with the glasses on, it really does show blue light on her face. So the blue light can come from mobile phones, iPads, computers, TVs, okay? So think about limiting the amount of blue light things, okay? So in a good sleep routine, you would think about switching all of those things off at least an hour before you start your bedtime routine, okay? Because you want to give the melatonin as much chance as possible to kick in, okay? So things like get rid of the iPad. Difficult, I know, but it's one of those things. Do you have a short-term battle for the iPad or a longer-term good quality sleep? Okay, so you kind of have to look at kind of which is the best thing for you, I suppose. But I would definitely say ditch the blue light. Not good for you. And I know as adults as well, we tend to, a lot of times, if we wake up during the night, I know my husband does this. If he wakes up in the middle of the night, first thing he'll do is check his phone, and then he'll wonder why he can't go back to sleep again. So it does affect us too. So I would say for adults too, switch your phone off. I always plug mine in, and mine doesn't even go in the bedroom. So, just get them out of the way. Yes, you can play with them and do whatever you need to do with them during the day, but when it comes to bedtime routine, try and switch them off, okay? So then we're kind of looking at things like nutrition and sleep. I kind of mentioned before very, very briefly about the link between nutrition and sleep. Again, in the workshop, we do go through this in way more detail, okay? But the body produces serotonin and melatonin that we've mentioned, and these are both natural hormones which help us to form healthy sleep patterns, okay? So nutrition plays a big part in getting a good night's sleep, which I've kind of mentioned briefly, okay? The type of food we eat in the evening can have a big effect on our quality of sleep. So think of, what is your child having from tea time to supper time? What sort of things are they eating? Could they be eating something that is keeping them awake? We all kind of know that eating things like chocolate maybe is not good at night time, okay? Things with additives. Um, I spoke to somebody quite recently, and the little boy wasn't sleeping very well at all, but it turned out he had a bowl of Haribos next to his bed. And I thought, well, no wonder really, because if you wake up and have a Haribo, you're not really going to have much of a sleep after that, are you really? So it's kind of looking at those things. What are you having to eat, especially before you go to bed? Obviously, we're all going to try and have, as much as we possibly can, a healthy diet if we can. I'm realistic. I know some children will only eat certain things. So if you come to the workshop, you will find out what the good sleepy foods are, and we even got some recipes there to help you out with that. Okay. So the type of food we eat can have a massive effect on the quality of our sleep. If you try yourself, um, eat 2 bars of chocolate before you go to bed, do you sleep well after that? Well, if you have a great big Indian meal or something, like a big curry or something, and you go straight to bed afterwards, you won't sleep because you're full up and you're feeling really uncomfortable, won't you? So you can see there is definitely a link there, okay? So nutrition can also affect the brain chemistry that promotes good sleep, okay? So you're looking for, I suppose one tip I'll give you is when you're looking for things for supper, look for foods that contain a thing called tryptophan, okay? Tryptophan, it's spelled Tryptophan, I think that's how you spell it. Tryptophan, okay? If you look for things with tryptophan in, you're probably maybe getting there, okay? So things that are good for sleep and for supper times. Certain foods are natural insomnia remedies. So kind of think about that, natural. So you want natural stuff and maybe stuff with tryptophan, okay? Certain food can keep us awake. So we talked about Haribo's, not good at bedtime. Chocolate, maybe is not so good. A massive curry before you go to bed, maybe is not so good, okay? So think about what you're eating before you go to bed, okay? So things to help, okay? So a sleep diary can be really, really useful. I would say that's my number one thing to advise anybody with any sleep issues, to keep a sleep diary. If you keep a sleep diary, you've got more chance of noting things that are actually happening. If you kind of think, oh, last night it was horrendous, and oh, I'll remember that, I don't need to write it down. You won't remember it because you're probably tired, you're forgetful, you've lost your concentration, and by the time the following morning comes around, you think one night blurs into another one. So you probably will not remember. So keep a sleep diary. So in the following morning, so maybe get one tonight, get a notebook and get a pen and put it beside your bed or whatever, wherever you keep it, and just write down what's happening around bedtime, okay? The other thing about a sleep diary, if I was doing a sleep plan, or you were asking for sleep help, with pediatricians or GPs, that would be the first thing they'd ask you to do. They'd ask you to keep a proper sleep diary for at least a couple of weeks, because then we would need to have a good idea of what exactly is going on, okay? Sometimes you keep that sleep diary and you don't get as far as the GP because you can kind of start seeing patterns yourself. It's like keeping a behavior diary. You would see patterns yourself, hopefully. Okay, so a sleep diary would note things like the naps during the day. So as your child a bit older and they are having naps during the day, that would be something you'd maybe stop, because maybe a child by the age of 2 or 3, at least 3 at the most, would probably stop having naps during the day anyways, wouldn't they? So is it like the problems getting to sleep? So you need to write down exactly what those problems are. So is it up and down, glass of water, biscuit, what did you do today, mum, and all of that sort of stuff. So what exactly is going on? The waking times during the night. So what happens when they wake up during the night? For how long? What did they do? What did you do? Were they screaming and shouting and creating merry hell, or were they trying to climb out the bedroom window, or did they come and jump on you and decide they were coming into your bed and they weren't happy that you took them back to theirs, so you're back and forward, back and forward. So all of that sort of stuff. So if you keep a good sleep diary for a good couple of weeks, you might see patterns. And if you see patterns, you're more likely to be able to find, right, okay, what do I need to do to stop those things happening? So things like making the bedroom a relaxing place. I touched on this before. So if the bedroom's not relaxing, your child's not going to really sleep, are they? So if you think, a lot of times we'll get for our kids, we'll get them things that they like in the bedroom. So we'll get Thomas or My Little Pony or whoever that might be, and we'll put the cover of the bedroom and all of these things and all of these posters and lovely bright colors. And we'll say, oh, you can have bright pink and a purple wall and yellow ceiling and orange stripes and blue carpet and all of this. And we'll kind of say, oh, isn't that lovely? But maybe it's just too much. If your child's not sleeping, there's something wrong somewhere, isn't there? So think about making the bedroom as relaxing place as possible. Okay. So you don't want lots of clutter. You don't want all these bright things on the wall. So if you do that little thing that I said before about going into your child's bedroom and lying on the bed, you might see, well, oh, that wall's a bit bright. I didn't realize it was quite so luminous and all of that, because it might be luminous yellow in the middle of the night or something. Or you might have a poster in the bedroom and the eyes might be kind of following you. You think, oh, that's a bit weird. So it's kind of, you have to have a look and see what you can see. But try this afternoon when this is finished, and try when it starts to get a little bit dark. And if you're in your child's bedroom later on, try and see what it's like in the dark. See what you can see what you can hear, because you'll see and hear different things at different times of the day and when the natural light comes on. Okay, so the bedroom should be relaxing, not cluttered, not loads of stuff, no tellies, no DVDs, no Xboxes, no computers, none of those sort of things, because if those are the things that are keeping your child awake, we need rid. Okay, no toys, that's really difficult. So if your child plays in the bedroom quite a lot, but they're not sleeping, they're associating the bedroom with a play place. Bedrooms have to be sleep and only sleep. This is if your child's got a sleep issue, which I'm assuming that's why you're here. Okay. If your child's got no issues around sleep, then that's fine. They're obviously managing. But if they have got an issue, sometimes it's easier to take things away and start with the bare bones of something and add things gradually. Okay. Because a little bit of trial and error, and you might find out what it actually is. Okay. So relaxing things in the bedroom could also be the colors on the wall. So best colors for a bedroom are pastel colors. Blue and green are probably the best ones. If you're going to have something dinosaurs or My Little Pony, maybe have it on the wall behind them, so it's not the first thing they see. Okay, try and have it boring. Really, bedrooms should be boring. They're just for sleep, for nothing much else. Okay, try not to use the bedroom as a place of punishment either. So it's not a play place and it's not a punishing place. So if you say go to your room, some kids love that because they just want to chill and go to their room and hang out and do whatever they're doing in the bedroom. Might have to find another place. Okay. Creating a regular bedtime routine, that is massive, really. It's a massive, massive thing, because a lot of children, the problem's not so much with the sleep itself, it's the getting them to sleep. So therefore, having a regular bedtime routine is an absolute must. If you find a routine that works, stick with it. Okay, it's going to be consistency. It's going to be getting support. So from your partner, grandma, whoever else might have your child over to stay, if they go somewhere else to stay. But it's the consistency. So the regular bedtime routine, again, it's going to be lots of little things. So you're thinking about the bedroom being relaxing, you're thinking about supper time, you're thinking about switching off all those iPads and those TV things and stuff. So if you switch the iPad off at 6 o'clock, what's your child going to do? until 8 o'clock bedtime. You think, right, okay, we need to fill a couple of hours. How are we going to do this? So instead of saying, all right, go and play on your trampoline because that's going to be bouncy, bouncy, and again, too stimulating, you might think, right, okay, we'll switch everything off. We'll get some things out on the table. We'll do some tabletop activities, okay? So it could be things like thread and bobbins, or it could be jigsaws, or colouring in, or plasticine things, or playing with plasticines, or writing a story or something. But it's something you're sitting there with your child, and maybe his brothers and sisters as well, if you can get them involved. And that's a lovely time just to sit and do something together, but it's about hand-eye coordination things, okay? But that could be the time for an anxious child to sit and have a chat. What happened today? Oh, this happened today, Mum, and that happened today. So that's the time for them to get their anxieties out before they go to bed as well. And that little bedtime, part of that bedtime routine can be lovely because it's family time, okay? I think top tip as well is switch the TV off, because the TV, as well as the blue light, there's always bad news on the TV, and never be fooled at how much of that bad news your child might be taking in. And I think especially at the moment, it's either COVID, explosions, or goodness knows what, but it's always bad. So switch the TV off, because you don't really need your child to have all of that stuff going into them every day, okay? Because even if you think, oh, they pay no attention, some of that stuff is sinking in, which can cause great anxiety to a lot of children. My son has got quite anxious about COVID stuff, and I think he's picked up bits of things here and there, and I think he's kind of making a lot of it up in his head. So it's really, really important for us to do easy read things to help him to understand in a way that he can understand. So look at those sort of things as well. Switch the TV off, okay? So your regular bedtime could be those tabletop things. It could be then it's your supper. So you pick up, like you find out what's got the tryptophan in it and all of that, what's got these natural things in that will help for sleep. Okay. And then you're thinking about the association. So then you might go upstairs and you might think, right, it's bath time. You might have visual clues around. You might use signs. Whatever it is that you need to use for your child, put other things in place, because maybe they don't quite understand or expect they don't know what's expected of them. So use visuals if you can, okay? A lot of times it's association of things. So you think, right, we're going to go upstairs and we're going to go for the bath. So think about the bath. Does the bath stimulate your child? So if the answer is yes, maybe try and do bath time in the morning, okay? And if it means getting up half an hour early in the morning, is that not worth it for your child to have a good sleep, okay? Lots of children are very sensory. They might hate going in the bath, but once they're in there, you can't get them out again. But then they might hate getting washed because they might hate being rubbed, like physically rubbed, or their hair being washed. So it's finding ways around that. I tend to do a bit of deep pressure, but that's my son response to that. You would kind of find what works for your child. There's lots of other little things you can do. You can add lavender to the bath and different things like that. But again, come to the workshop and you'll find out more. Okay. So it's getting that routine. So if it's not bath time, is it brushing your teeth? Again, can be a major battle. So maybe could you get like a three-headed toothbrush, flavorless toothpaste? Use that. That might just take that extra little battle away for bedtime. So you get that bedtime routine, then you go into the bedroom by which time all of these things are off the walls and your bed's now all nice and comfy and everything's cozy and relaxed, okay? And it's at the right temperature. You've got your blackout blind down. You might shut the curtains when you're in there. And again, it's part of the routine. You pull the blinds down, you shut the curtains, okay? And then you get the pajamas on, okay? So pajamas, into bed, story, night-night, kiss night-night, love you, and off you go. Well, wouldn't that be lovely if that was in the real world? I know for a lot of people that is not reality, but that's what we're going to try and strive for, okay? So if you think you're going to have problems with that, again, come back to me, come to the workshop, and I'll actually be able to see you then, and we'll talk properly, okay? But it's all about that association. So sometimes some children might come in from school or whatever, and the first thing they'll do is put the pajamas on. The thing is, if you put your pajamas on, that child's then associating pajamas with playing, so it's not associating pajamas with bedtime. So it's lots of little things that can really work. Take it from me, they really do work. So get that routine that works and be consistent with it. So you find something that works and it's like, oh, this is fabulous, and do not deviate from that routine. Even if it's in the middle of the summer holidays, which it is now, or even if you go away camping or whatever, try and keep to the same routine as much as you possibly can. Doesn't have to be dead on the same time unless your child's really stuck on it, has to be the same time. But you can juggle around a little bit, but the routine itself, the basic routine must be this, 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 and this, because that's the only way a lot of children will respond, okay? So even when it comes to Christmas and stuff like that, probably more so at Christmas, because a lot of children struggle and hate Christmas, okay? So it's really important to keep that routine going as much as you possibly can. The consistency, all of that, getting the support. Aids and adaptation. So you can get things, you can get mattress protectors if your child's still, wearing pads and things during the night. So there, that can be a lot of time saved, and that can be quite easy in and easy off sort of thing. You can get Conti sheets, so things that go over, sheets that go over, so you just kind of rip them off, put them another one back on. You can get epilepsy alarms, you can get things to make the room safe. So you can put even things like a wind chime on the door, so you know if they're up, so they can hear it. You can hear a wind chime. Some little things. There's an organisation, I've just put a little thing on there, Fledglings. Have a look at that on the Contact website. They do lots of little gadgets and things like that, okay? So aids and adaptations, all of that, okay? So if your child is having real problems getting to sleep, it's really important to seek medical advice. For instance, if you've got a child that might snore, okay? Snoring, it's like, it can be really annoying. If your partner snores, then that can be really annoying. But if your child's snoring, how are they snoring? What are they doing when they're snoring? Do they kind of snore and then kind of stop breathing? And that's kind of, if they're stopping breathing quite a lot, that is kind of leading to sleep apnea. It's basically they are having problems breathing if they're snoring a lot. So I'm not trying to panic you, but if it's snoring quite heavily, a lot of people sort of snore very gently. But could it be just you change the pillow, you change the angle of the pillow, give them an extra pillow, take a pillow away. It's making sure that the windpipe and everything is clear, so they're not snoring, really. A lot of us know that if you lie on your back, especially if you've had a drink or a glass of wine or something, you lie on your back, you do start to snore. Well, kids aren't drinking wine before they go to bed, hopefully anyways. But, so they're snoring for a different reason. So could it be that they just need their tonsils removed or their adenoids removed? Or could it be something else? But if you're in any doubt, seek medical advice, okay? Because if your child's really having lots of problems sleeping, and none of the things that you try are working, you've tried rigorous sort of routines and things like that. If nothing's working, trust your gut instinct and take them to the doctors. It's far better, far safer to rule things out or to rule things in, isn't it, really? Because you don't want to be that person at the end of the day when all sorts have been going on and you just haven't realized. Okay, so we're kind of coming towards the end here, but I'll take you through this. This is what's called a hypnogram. So this is the typical sleep cycle of kind of everybody, okay? So you see there it says stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. So these are part of what's called the REM. So REM stands for rapid eye movement. It's not just an American band, okay? So if you look at stage 1, okay, these are the non-REM sleep parts. So stage 1 is non-REM stage 1, and that is falling asleep. So that stage might take anything from 5 minutes to 15 minutes. This is if everything's working according to plan, of course. This maybe is not be in your household yet, okay? So that can take anything from 5 to 15 minutes. Then stage 2 could be anything from 5 to 15 minutes. So light sleep was the sort of gradually more relaxing. The breathing is becoming a bit slower. You can tell when somebody's kind of falling asleep, can't you? A lot of times when your kids are little, I've done this too, you sit with your child until they get to sleep, and as soon as they start, you think is sleep, maybe snoring, but it's like that labored breathing a little bit, that just kind of not quite there, and that's when you leave the room and they'll be wide awake. Before you get to the top step, they'll be wide awake again. That's because they are still not really asleep yet, okay? They are not really asleep until they hit stage 3, okay? Stage 3 is deep sleep, and that's when it's difficult to wake. So that can take quite a little while. So these numbers at the bottom are hours, okay? So it's just before the 1 mark on the bottom line there. So it's just maybe it's anything up to an hour or so that can take to get into deep sleep. Deep sleep is when it's really difficult to wake. It's when you're totally zonked. It's when your child's a baby lying in the cot and you think, oh my God, they're not moving, and you prod them. Okay. because that's when they feel like they're basically lying so still that you can't see any movement. Everything sort of looks as if it's paralyzed kind of thing, okay? Stage 3 would be the time, and that sort of area of time of the night where night terrors will happen. So the child or the young person is totally fast asleep. And this is when you see the night terrors, but you realize they are fast asleep if you look at this, and they will not remember anything about it, okay? If you wake up, if somebody wakes you up, say the phone rings or somebody comes banging on your door when you're in deep sleep, it's really disorientating. You wake up and you kind of fall out of bed and you're like, whoa, and you're staggering all over the place and you're not quite sure what day it is and all of that. So that's when you've been in this deep sleep. So then a little bit later, you come out of this deep sleep and you come back up. So these orange bits are the bits which are most coming into the REM sleep, the rapid eye movement sleep. And these are the times of sleep where you would have maybe nightmares rather than night terrors, okay? So everybody at some points during the night will wake up and scan the room around them. That's when you're looking for a calm environment around you. So if you've sat with your child and held their hand and told them a story and they've nodded off and they've been into the deep sleep, that's the time they'll come looking for you, because the environment is not the same when they wake up as when they went to sleep. Okay, so this is another reason why it's so important to try and get your child to settle themselves. Okay, on a night time, one of my top tips is when you've said good night, sleep tight, love you, give your child a kiss, leave the bedroom. After that, you become what's called the robotic parent. Okay, a robotic parent will go back into the bedroom at some point, because we all will at some point. And if your child's awake, as you use a phrase and you stick to your phrase, okay? So it's nighttime, go to sleep. It's nighttime, go to sleep. You're not there to play. You're not there to chat. You're not there to listen to anxieties, even though that might seem a bit cruel, but we're going to try and get rid of those during the day, okay? It's nighttime, go to sleep. So your child begins to realize, oh, mom, dad, you are so boring. I might as well just go to sleep then, okay? So hopefully that will do the trick. The thing is, when a lot of children are awake during the night, they are not getting the REM sleep. They are not getting the deep sleep, stage 3 sleep, and they might not be getting the REM sleep. You've got to have all of that sleep to be able to function, okay? And if your child's not getting bits of those sleep, then they are not going to function to the best of their ability, okay? So I'm going to leave it there unless we've got any questions. I'm just going to have a quick look and see if there are any questions. Oops, I'll put my face back on. Somebody's just got light glasses, question mark. I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that, but I'm thinking I'm not exactly sure what you mean by light glasses. I'm thinking if it was like things for a nighttime. The only thing I can think that you might mean, well, it might be what do you call them? Oh, things that you put across your eyes when you're on an airplane. What do you call them? I can't remember what you call them. Things to cover your eyes up. It depends if your child would tolerate something like that, but I can't really see what you mean by light glasses. So whoever's put that down, if you want to elaborate, I'll come back to me later. I can see, so studies have come. I can't really see all of that question. So it could be that we'll have to deal with that one later because I can't really get to. All right, is there a reason why those with ASD may have low melatonin levels, and whether there is any research or studies that have confirmed this? I'm not aware of studies, but there will be some studies. I'm imagining there will be some studies. If you leave that one with me and put your name on there, and we'll try and get back to you to see if there are studies. I'm pretty sure there will have been, okay? And I don't really know what the reason is. I think it's it seems to be a lot of children with autism have the problems with the sleep and get the extra melatonin prescribed. So that it's maybe something to do with the link between autism. I'm not medically trained, I should say. So I will see if I can find some studies on that, and we will try and put some out there or links to that sort of out there, because it's something I think it would be interesting to know, wouldn't it? Yep. Okay. So if nobody else has got any questions, I think we'll leave it there because it's now 2 o'clock and I'm sure you've got other things to do, like go play in the garden and stuff. But I would say lovely to see you, but I can't see anybody. This webinar will be on the contact website within the next couple of weeks, I think it's going to be. Okay, so keep an eye out for it. Okay, and then, like I say, if you want to come to the workshop, it's on the 13th. It's Thursday, the 13th of March, and it's 1 o'clock till 2:30. Okay, we will kind of go through some of the things that's just been discussed here, but we will go into more detail. And we do generally have quite a few parents that come onto those sessions, and it is a good way to swap tips and things with other parents, because a lot of times other parents can give you some really good advice. Okay, because you might think, oh, nothing's working, and a parent might come up with something completely random, and you think, whoa, that's just the job for me. So if you can come along to the workshop. The places need to be pre-booked. If you go on the website, there is a link there to book up to them. Okay, so did I say March? Sorry, I might have said March. So it's Thursday, the 13th of August. Oh, I don't know. I've got March written down. Sorry. Thank you, Maureen. So Thursday, the 13th of August at 1 o'clock till 2:30. Okay, and hopefully we'll see some of you then. Okay. Thank you very much. Until then, sleep tight.